Welcome back. Today we're going to be taking a quick look at figure drawing and trying to figure out how to work from the skeleton out to the flesh in order to create mass and volume and dimension in our drawings of the figure. I have a drawing up on my screen that I'm going to be using, and I'm going to be placing this photograph in the bottom right hand corner of the video for us so that you can see what it is that I'm working on drawing as I'm explaining sort of the steps and processes that I am using as I'm going. So the first thing that we need to understand is that the head is the basic unit of measurement that we're going to be using to help establish proportions. Right? So with this seated figure, I'm going to start by drawing the head and using the same techniques that we did in grade 10 when we were doing the portraiture. I'm going to overlap a couple of circles in order to kind of get a basics of the overall structure and shape of the head. I am not going to be getting myself caught up in the details of the actual face when doing the figure drawing, because the emphasis here is going to be on the gesture and the pose of the whole body. I am going to, however, use some lines here to kind of like indicate the major direction and sort of overall sense of where the face is pointing. So I'm going to use some quick lines, right? Remembering that the eyes are approximately halfway down the from the top down to the bottom, and so I've got a basic shape for my head, and from here I'm going to start looking at placing the shoulders. So when I'm looking at my image, the back of the head, the shoulder, the ball and socket joint of the shoulder is actually completely behind the head. So I'm going to use a circle here, and I'm going to use a line to indicate the neck, and I'm going to then locate the elbow. Right, so again, using my reference photo, I can see that the elbow is kind of sort of underneath where the eye would be down here. And again, I'm going to use a circle in order to indicate this, and I'm going to join those together. And then I see that the forearm kind of comes across, and then the hand is kind of wrapping around the knee. So what you'll notice here is that this is a very loose drawing, and I'm trying to really just kind of establish the skeletal structure. Right? So using my pencil, I'm going to measure the head. 2, 3, 4. Okay, so from the top of the head down to the seat where he's sitting is approximately 4 heads tall. So I'm going to use my pencil, I'm going to mark it out, and I'm going to go, okay, so that's 1, 2, 3, right? So I was pretty close, but I was off by just a little bit here. Okay, so that's where the bottom of his, where he's sitting, and I'm going to include the sort of the hip joint here, and try and get in that arch of the back. And I know that the legs are coming up. Actually, I think I need to readjust this a little bit and bring this down, right? Because the length doesn't seem quite long enough. Right, and then the femur, the legs come up. I've got the knees here and here, and the feet are, the ankle of the one foot here is just in below the wrists, and then the foot comes up, the other foot comes across, right, and we have the other leg. So what I'm doing first of all is establishing, or what we refer to as kind of gisting, the overall skeletal structure. Once I have this basic base down, then I'm going to start thinking about going in and adding in a little bit more of the volume. You'll also notice that for this particular drawing, I am using, just let that focus, it's a 2H pencil, so that I can draw very, very lightly, knowing that I am going to need to be able to erase. Okay? So from here, I need to start adding in the mass. Okay? And to do this, I'm going to start up with the neck, right, and bringing this in, right. There's the beard here of the figure is kind of coming down in, but I'm going to establish the overall right, I gotta get the elbow in. Right, and when we're doing some of this figure drawing, there are readjustments that we need to be making. Right, so at this phase, I'm starting to think about some of the folds and wrinkles in the fabric. Okay, so I've got the arm kind of established here. I'm going to continue to work around the back. Right, and again, the fabric lines are really important in terms of being able to help kind of define what's going on with the form. Okay, and where clothes transition can also be very, very helpful, as they provide a key visual indicator of sort of where one part of the body begins and another ends. Okay. Gravity too is also a big helper, because we know that clothes can only kind of fall and drape a certain way. So here we have sort of the legs coming up. And so as we're going to, right, it's okay not to feel overly confident in the work, right? 'Cause it's going to be a process. I'm already recognizing that there are some areas that I should have done a little bit differently. Notably through the back, this arch is not nearly exaggerated enough, and I'm having some troubles here in getting the legs to be the right size and in the right position. The feet are often kind of on a big side, right? So what this does is, I'm hoping you're seeing that it's okay to be making these mistakes, right? I've been drawing and working with visual arts for many years, and it still takes me some time. This is not the type of drawing that I do personally on a regular basis. So when I do come back to it, it takes time to sort of relearn some of these basic steps and principles, right? But having the tools and strategies by starting out with the gisting, working on the skeletal form, and then working out to thinking about sort of muscles. And then hopefully in a few minutes, I will be able to start thinking a little bit more about adding in some value in order to help create that sense of mass. Okay, so as I said, there's a couple of things that I'm still not overly happy with overall, in terms of the overall representation of the figure compared to the photograph. The arch of the back could be a little bit better. I'm still struggling a little bit with the legs, but that's fine, right? This is about practicing and developing. So what I'm going to do now, though, is transition into looking at the mass, and I'm able to accomplish this by using value. So I'm going to find a bit of a softer pencil. I've got my 3B here, and I want to start adding in some areas of shadow, right? And I'm going to be pressing lightly with the pencil here, right, and adding in just little bits of value throughout in some different areas. Right, and I can also come back in and I can use my blending stomp to kind of help with this process. Right, and again, I'm wanting to kind of think of those three major key aspects of light, right? Our highlights, our midtones, and our shadows. So I'm looking for patterning here of light and dark. What areas of the composition should be darker? which areas should be a little bit lighter, right? And I'm going in, I'm just adding a little bit of graphite with the pencil and then coming back in with my blending stop. I'm going to just kind of reinforce this ear a little bit, right? So I'm not worrying about getting specific with the details. And I'll come back in and I'll add in the beard a little bit later, right? So now I'm going to transition into kind of the neck. I'm seeing that there's a fairly dark area here that separates the collar from the shoulder. And now as I'm coming through here, the arms, right, I'm going to be playing a little bit more with some shading, recognizing that there's a little bit of a lighter zone that comes across the underside of the arm, and that's going to help to give this a little bit of dimension as it pops out from the torso. Right, and I'm going to just come in, sort of play a little bit here with the pencil, letting it dance across, right, but building up some values on the underside of the arm. Okay, so I need to get a more intense shadow on the torso, so I'm going to switch my pencil to a, let's say a 6 or an 8B, because the softer the lead, the more intense that shadow is going to be able to become. So I'm going to make it nice and dark up and underneath the armpit, right, and gradually release pressure as I come into sort of the other parts of the torso here, and using those guiding lines in order to help create sort of the folds and the sense of fabric moving. Right, and using the direction of the fabric in order to kind of choose how I'm putting in and smudging the graphite, right, is another strategy in order to help create a more believable sense of form and three-dimensionality. And the other thing to remember as well is that the eraser can be a very, very useful drawing tool, not just to correct mistakes, but to bring highlights into your work. All right. Okay, so today we've taken a look at how to do some basic figure drawings. Of course, not every drawing is going to become perfect the first time through. Sometimes you're going to need to or want to draw the same thing multiple times in order to continue to refine the overall gesture and the overall sense of space that you're trying to kind of create with the figure, right? And building up to mass and form. Essentially though, as you're going through this process, there are 3 steps that I want you to keep in mind. Number 1 is the idea of gisting, right? And that's using quick lines in order to establish the skeletal structure of the figure, right? And that we're thinking about where the major limbs are pointing and what direction they're going, what angle they are kind of sitting at. The second step is what we will refer to as sketching. And this is where we move from skeletal to adding on a little bit more of the musculature, right, and flushing out and bringing out the sort of the width and the breadth of the different limbs. And then finally, we're going to get into the drawing stage, which is about adding value. And the value is going to really make the figure start to have 3-dimensionality, as well as having a sense of mass, right? So the last thing that I could do with this particular sketch is I might want to include a little bit of a cast shadow, just so that right, the figure doesn't appear to be completely kind of floating in the middle of my page. Okay? But it's those 3 steps and a lot of practice that's going to help you to be able to draw figures or people a little bit more realistically. Okay, so keep drawing, keep practicing, and we're going to do a variety of different timed drawings to kind of warm up, get our observations skills set up and ready to go for some longer and more sustained drawing. Hey, good luck. Hopefully you've got a couple of new tips and tricks out of this video, and I can't wait to see what you're able to draw. Have a great day. Bye.